What's up, guys? I'm assuming if you're watching this, you haven't died and are probably in quarantine, bored out of your mind. So, I'm going to try to make a few videos this week and then over the coming weeks because I know we're all stuck inside and bored and looking for something to do. But before we get into this week's video, down below in the description, I'm going to link a website. That's actually my website, but on there I'm going to link a spot for all the coupon codes. So any coupon code I have, I'll put on there. I don't make anything off of these, but it saves you guys money. So put it all in one spot with links to their websites so you guys, while you're bored and spending the stimulus money that we're supposedly getting, save you some dollars. So there you go. Some of you commented in the last video about hats, shirts, stickers, patches, all that. So working on that. That'll be coming in the future. It'll be an easy way for you guys to support my channel without having to do a Patreon or like any of that stuff. So that's coming. With all that stuff out of the way, let's get into what we're talking about today, which is war belt setup. A few of you have asked about this, about my belt setup as well as plate carrier. We'll do the plate carrier in another video. So I'm going to talk about how I've got mine set up and then kind of give you a quick review of the different products I use as well as kind of the thought process behind it. So just a quick once over, running the high-speed gear duty belt, and then we'll work at 12 o'clock and go all the way around. So soil leader, running their belt-mounted tourniquet holder. Super easy to access, super slim. It's kind of like a dead space in your belt anyways, so it's a brilliant design, easy to access with either hand. So it's one of the things that if you ever do like an if you ever do an injured shooter course with Centrifuge or any of those guys, they always talking about being able to access your medical gear with either hand, because typically we set stuff up right hand dominant, but what happens if your right hand goes down? How do you access that gear? So this being mounted as close to dead center as possible is really good and really beneficial, so you can access with your left hand if you need to. So love that, soil leader. Go check those guys out, and I'll link all this down below. I run the G-code system, so I run their system simply because that's what I started with. A lot of the guys that I shoot with and run Safariland, whatever works for you. A lot of you guys are issued Safariland, but G-code works for me. I like their stuff. I've seen recent videos of these actually breaking. I haven't had an issue with mine, but I've also seen Safariland break too. It's one of those things where like test your gear, know your gear. If it breaks in training, probably going to break in the field, so look at maybe moving on to something else. I run the leg strap, so shout out to Brittany and Chris for giving me crap about running 2 straps. I keep it double strapped. So I run the leg strap simply because with some of these holsters that are friction only, I run them pretty tight so that if I'm running around or moving whatever, the gun doesn't fall out. But when it comes to drawing, it tends to make the holster want to flip up, and so some of you experience that. So this alleviates that, and it's real nice when you're like in the tactical games and we're climbing ropes or climbing walls or whatever. Holster, and I run, so I have 2 of them. I have a light bearing and non-light bearing, and the reason for that simply is that when I run like a steel match or whatever, I can just pop this off, put that one on, take the light off the gun, run it, whatever. Or if I haven't, like the Comp Tri-11, run it without a light. And then both of these are Cordura wrapped, so Brian's going to talk about this in an upcoming video, so a little spoiler alert, but it's just so you can rack the light off and then on. So, but you'll see that on Triarch's page. Go check out their series, their Pushing Forward series. Brian's got some good content coming out on there. Slytac training, if you haven't seen him or don't follow his stuff, go check him out. But if you want a full review on these, I'll link that above. You can check these out. Over there. I've got a D-ring right here, or a little carabiner, some mechanics gloves. I got these for free at the first spear shoot at SHOT Show. So I keep them on there. They fit really well. They're nice. I have another pair of first spears that I throw on there just depending on the weather and what we're doing. But I always try to keep a pair of gloves on there ever since I cut my hand fast ripping down. But I run this on there just to keep this as it's more of like an admin thing. Keep gloves on there. I'll take my Peltors off and throw them on there when we're at a break, if we're at a course or something. I hate like putting them around my knee and then they fall, or like on my hip, or put them on my gun. And so I got sick of that, so I was looking for a solution. So I just threw a carabiner on there. I can clip them on there, so if we're setting up targets or listening to instruction or whatever, it's super easy to just have them there. Basic med kit, again, G-code. I want to try out the Coyote Tactical one that you can grab from either side. So going back to this like injured shooter thing and being able to access it, because of how this stuff is centered or positioned, I can't access this with either hand as easily as I'd like to. I can, but just not as easily as I want to. And I think with the Coyote Tactical, and there's a couple others, you can actually just pull it out. I think High Speed Gear makes one. You can just pull it out and throw it to somebody if you need to, or lay it in front of you and be able to access all your gear in front of you instead of having to reach behind and all that. So super simple. T-Rex Arms dump pouch. I like this one because it rolls up and it has, again, the leg strap. So when we're rope climbing over walls or whatever, at the tactical games, you have to retain your mags. So being able to throw them in here and then not have this flop around. We were at the Frank Proctor course, and there was some SWAT guys out there, and they were checking it out because they run into the same issue. That, like, you're running around, if you've got stuff in here, it like flops around, and then mags are falling out everywhere, or you know, you throw a bottle of water or snacks, whatever you want in there, and it's really easy to get on and off. So if you don't want to run it or whatever, like if I do a steel match, I can take it off. It's just one less piece of gear I have to worry about. Moving over to mag pouches. So I run the Taco Duty pouches. I've run some other pouches in the past, and the issue that I had, the reason I went with these, was the last brand that I used. If you watch any of my TAC game videos or even some of our training videos, you'll see when I'm running, these mags would pop out. And it's just how they were woven and the way the retention in them, they would come out. And so I got sick of that happening. And so I was like, okay, I got to find a solution. I got to find something better. So checked out the high speed gear duty tacos. Really like them. Haven't had any issues with them coming out or anything like that. And I can run 1911 mags in them. I can run 2011 Glock mags, whatever. But yeah, so I like them. And then I got the duty ones simply because the bungee is woven internally, so it doesn't get caught on anything. Again, with when you're in the TAC games or when you're running some of that stuff, if you've ever done any kind of like movement stuff or you got to sling your gun around, when that stuff is hanging off, it gets caught on things. And so it would get caught on my bolt catch release or it'd get caught on something else, and I didn't want that, so I went with the duty ones to keep it nice, clean look and not have to worry about that stuff. So that's a basic overview. What I got on my belt. And with the high-speed gear belt, I really like it. Haven't had any issues with it. Just make sure you get the right size. Always remember when you're doing these tack belts, typically size up or go up a size because you're going to be wearing it over clothes, and then there's usually an internal belt like this. So I like this one, and I'll show here in a second. Because if I'm doing dry fire, I can just grab this belt with the internal belt, throw it on over, throw a leg strap on, and I'm fine. If I know we're going to be out, like if I'm going out to the range, this actually goes woven through my belt loops, and then this one goes over and attaches, and it keeps it secure so it's not sliding up and down or, you know, whatever. And it helps alleviate some of the weight of the belt, like kind of rocking back and forth when you're moving around. Super durable, really well stitched and put together, quality materials. It's a stiff belt, so if you're looking for, but it's not like it's not like a comp belt. You know, comp belts are like really, really rigid. It's not quite that, so it's kind of in the middle. It's not real flimsy, but it's perfect. I like it. So the reason mine is set up the way that it is, kind of my thought process in setting up my belt was getting my handgun in a position that I felt like was right for me, and then getting these pouches in a position that was right for me, and then everything else kind of find a solution to work around that. So initially, I used to run just 2 pistol mags and then 1 rifle mag, but then with the TAC games, there's some stages, it's not frequent, but there's some stages where you have to run 5 mags. So if I go 3 and 3 on my plate carrier and then 2 and 2 on my belt, that carries everything. I did run some in the dump pouch for a while, but that wasn't as simple as I thought it would be, and it kind of created some other issues that I wasn't expecting. So that's why I went to the 2 and 2 on the belt and then 3 and 3 on the plate carrier. And it's been working really well for me. I like it. And then if I'm in a situation where I don't need rifle mags, if I'm at a pistol class or doing a steel match or whatever else, I just pop these off, and then I've got some other ones that I can do. So speaking of that, there's one thing I want to show real quick. I know that this is one thing that High Speed Gear gets a lot of questions about, and that's how these actually attach in there. As you can see, it's been woven through, and if you've ever put these on this belt, it doesn't seem like it'll quite reach. And there's, like, guys have talked about the taco sliding up and down. If your taco slides up, I'm a child. If your taco slides up and down, you haven't installed it correctly. So, really quick, I'll show you right down here, if I can get this open, how these mount on here. Just to kind of give you a heads up, we'll take this pouch off, and then we'll do it right here. So, you're gonna go through there, right? And then you're gonna weave it just like you would some molly. And then there is a little spot there. Push that through. Now, okay, so a lot of guys get to this point, they snap it on, and then it's like, okay, well, if I leave it like that, it'll slide around. There's slack in it. And the one key component that most guys are missing, and I did this too, I actually had to message them, is you can kind of see this little hole right here. So they send these screws with it, these right here. There you go. Okay, so you take that screw, it goes through, you put the washer on the other side, and once you put that in, that secures it, and it'll keep it from sliding up and down like these right here. So see how there's like no play in those? That's how it should be. So you see all these little screws right here. That's what you're looking for in your setup. You want it set up like that, so that way it doesn't move. If you do that, they're set up correctly, you won't have any issues. So I just want to talk about that. I know that's one issue that I've seen, I know a lot of other guys had, and I know they're probably tired of answering that question, so maybe this will help some of that. But yeah, that's it for the most part. The main thing that I would say when setting up any of your gear, whether it's your belt, your plate carrier, whatever else, it's mission dictates gear. So what's your mission set? When we say mission, it doesn't necessarily mean that you are a tier 1 operator, it doesn't mean that you're LE or anything like that. It's just like, what are you trying to accomplish? So like if you're mainly a pistol shooter and you do steel matches, your rig or your belt is gonna look a lot different than mine. So for me, with the training that I do, the TAC games, all that, mine is set up geared towards that. If I was law enforcement, this would look very different because, you know, I've got to put a taser, a radio, pepper spray, handcuffs, some of you guys run batons, whatever that is, your belt's going to look different. So the main thing is put what you need and then go from the most essential things first and then find a place for everything else. And then test your gear, tweak it, try it. Because like one of the things that like some of like my buddies that are law enforcement, they talk about how their belt is set up a certain way, and then after they spend a few weeks in a car or whatever, like crap, this isn't gonna work. I gotta move this around because it's digging into my back or whatever. So it's one of those things like what's the most essential, what's the highest priority as far as where it needs to be located. Set that stuff up first, and then figure out a place for everything else. Test it and try it. Always test your gear. Always work with it. And if you're not getting out and training with it, you're never gonna find those little things of like, oh, I thought this would work, but it didn't. And then the last thing I would say is don't put too much stuff on your belt. Don't carry stuff that you don't need. If you don't find yourself reaching for it at least once during the training session or when you go out and go train, you probably don't need it on your belt. With the exception of things like tourniquets or med kit, but honestly you should be training with that anyways. But that's another story for another day. But when you think about things like I see guys carry like battery pouches, if you're not doing low light stuff, you probably don't need it on your belt. If you're at a low light class, it makes sense to put it on your belt. Dump pouches, not everybody needs to run one. I run one. You don't always need this mag setup. Run what's specific for you. Run what you need for what you're trying to achieve, not what you saw somebody else run. I just threw this out here because I wanted to kind of share what I run and what works for me. And to maybe get you to think about things a little bit differently and highlight some of the brands that stuff I've used that I like. So yeah, Duty Tacos are amazing. T-Rex Arms dump pouch, probably the favorite and the best one I've seen on the market. Other ones that I've seen, I think they're too big or like they don't attach the right way. Medkit works for me for right now. Looking at other solutions, if you have a better idea of one, leave it in the comments below. This carabiner, you probably don't need it. I want it. It's a personal thing. G-Code works for me. You probably run Safariland, whatever. And then Soil Eater. So get out, try your gear, run it. Now's the time to try this stuff out. I mean, if you're stuck in the house and you're trying to figure out what you want to run, get out and try dry fire. See what works for you, see what doesn't, and then continue to just work through your gear and go, okay, this works, this doesn't. Yeah, so that's it. Speaking of dry fire, I'm going to go dry fire right now, and then I got to run to Trier. So I will catch you guys in the next one. Oh, that was unexpected. All the topo. Oh, I should be sponsored by Topo by now. That'd be awesome.